specifically for those people who have been in relationships with narcissists, what are we looking for with what are the red flags? I mean, I've seen a few videos now where people have got red flags and green flags, red flags years ago, I've never heard of the green flags, but this is a new concept. So,
Yeah.
let's go with the red flags. When I think of love bombing, which defined as somebody over complimenting you, smothering with you with affection, bonding too close to you. So you maybe have been dating for a week or 2 weeks, and suddenly I just know that you're my soulmate, and you're going steady on there, Jess. And I don't mean that whole. If you have that gut instinct that you just know you're supposed to be with somebody, this is not that. This is a forced connection and a
Yeah.
forced coupling from somebody who wants to control you because, again, they see you as the victim. My first husband was 12 years older than me and he completely manipulated me because I'd already experienced a childhood of people pleasing and blah 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 blah. To be honest with you, it was so refreshing that someone actually wanted to pay me attention because of me. Of course, I didn't know
Yeah.
it was a con. What I called him back then was a con man, but
Yeah.
it's now called love bombing. But
Yeah.
I teddy bears and gifts, and we didn't have mobile phones back then, so it was messages or little love letters, and it
Yeah.
was
Well, yeah.
full on love bombing. Do you have an experience, well, either with dad or your own self?
No, I don't think with my own self. With dad, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that sometimes with dad, well, only as a grown up, is if you pull away from him and he feels that. But I think this might come under hoovering, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because it's not, that's different because we haven't first met him. He can be extremely generous to bring you back in or to make you feel like you need to come back in. I think we saw it with mum a lot. I think we saw it with dad's relationship with mum.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, dad could be vile to mum, but when it was their anniversary, or he wanted to make a massive deal of the fact that he was the best husband in the world, he went really out of his way to, spend money on her and surprise her and show everybody what wonderful, it wasn't just in private. Do you know what I mean? Because my partner now buys stuff for me or does nice things for me, but it's in private. He
Mm.
doesn't announce it to the world. Dad would make sure it was somewhere public and he would tell all their friends about it. It was always, always public and always, and when I say always a meal somewhere, it's nice to go out for meals somewhere, but he would always get the bar staff involved and say, "Oh, can you have these flowers? Because our anniversary, will you bring them out? And will you do this and will you do that?" And what he wanted was for everyone to know, like, what an amazing husband he was. And he would love bomb her that way. And when they talk about when they first got together, he always says about how, she was amazed by him because of the manners he had. He held doors on.
Anyone listening, in the comments below,
Yeah.
we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your experiences because it would be interesting to see how that would
Yeah.
work from a parent-child perspective. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think what dad used to do or does now more specifically because we've all sussed him out and pulled away from him is the hoovering technique. It can't be anything other than something that will lure you back in again because we don't
Yeah.
want to be anywhere near him because of who he is. If I want to speak to you, I'll get on the phone and go, I love talking to you, but he isn't a person we want to have anything to do with. And
No.
thus he's then, it doesn't work though. Even when he tries to do it, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, no,
That,
because you always pay the price for it.
yes, yes,
You always pay the price. It's loaded with expectation
lines
of,
attached.
yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I can say anything to you, or give you a compliment, or say I love you, or whatever, send you a gift, and you do the same to, and it's because we love each other, and it's because we're sisters and friends, and we want to do something nice. There's always a price to pay.
yes.
Always a price to pay with that. And do you know
Yeah.
what? I worked this out that I struggle so much with asking for help, or not asking for help, but when people do like gift me things or want to help me, I
Yeah.
struggle so much with that. And I worked it out the other week that it's because there's always something attached. There's not now, I don't mean now, but I
Yeah.
mean with dad, he always threw that back in your face
Oh,
two,
yeah.
3 months down the line. Well, I've always helped you. And do you remember when I did this for you and did that for you? And there was always a price to pay. And And I struggle now because getting those, whether they be gifts or compliments or anything like that, it's hard to accept them for just what they are. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's another.
So
I mean,
you're looking for the catch from other people. So
yes,
basically that again, the behavior is affecting every part of your life. So
yeah,
there's literally nothing that you have or do or be or experience that his behavior hasn't permeated.
affected. Yeah, yeah,
There
it's
really
true.
isn't.
And that's another manipulation technique, isn't it? When they do the love bombing, that there is with an expectation of something in return,
Of
in
course.
a relationship, you
And
know.
of course, you're the worst in the world if you don't reciprocate.
Yeah,
How dare you? How dare look what everything I have done for you?
yeah,
Why would you not love me in return? Absolutely, it's definitely a tactic to garner control, to have the victim look to them for validation. And I
yeah,
did. With my first husband, I was like, oh, but he loves me so much. And then you would look to him for validation because he's the
yeah,
only one who gave you validation.
yeah.
We never got any validation. One of the other red flags we want to look at in a relationship is lack of accountability for their actions. Somebody who takes no accountability for what they've done and blames everybody else around them. Dad never takes responsibility or accountability. I remember when I stayed at their house with Jesse when he was younger, and Dad was ill. Obviously, he'd been ill for a long time at this point, and he'd gone upstairs to rest as often he needs to do when he with his illness. But before he'd gone up, he'd said, "Oh well, maybe we'll go and visit my aunt, his sister." I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to go up for a rest first. Yeah, no problem at all. So then myself, mum, and Jesse were just chilling in the living room as you might do when dad's up resting. We'd had dinner, we're sitting and having fun. And upstairs we could hear dad moving around and then we heard him coming down the stairs. But he came down the stairs fully dressed and then was suddenly annoyed, like within a minute of being in the room, why we weren't ready to leave right there and
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And I'm going, hang on a bloody minute. At that point, I'm now an adult and I was no longer the child that was going to be cowering in the corner. And I lost my temper. I lost my temper more because he took his anger out on a 3-year-old boy.
Yeah.
As usual, he does this. I can't be angry with you because I'm too scared of your reaction. So I'm going to pick on somebody who can't defend themselves.
The most vulnerable. Yeah.
But at the same token, I was having none of that.
Yeah.
And he yelled at Jesse for not having his shoes on. Come on, get your shoes on. And I was like, hold the phone a minute.
Hmm.
I said to him, I said, we didn't know you wanted to be ready immediately you came down the stairs. We're not mind readers. I'm not, I can't read your mind through the ceiling.
Yeah.
We're not ready because we didn't know we were supposed to be ready
Yeah.
immediately. And I lost the rag, at which point he had no argument, but he still didn't say sorry
No.
at all.
No.
Or he had no argument to that because he knew it was true, but he didn't say sorry either.
No.
Or own up and say, yeah, do you know what? My bad. I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit grumpy, which would have been an understandable reply.
So
He could have said, no, you're going to sneeze away.
yeah.
I've passed my cold down to the virtual line to you.
Thank you.
Share and share. I love to share. But there was no, yes, sorry, my bad. I'm just a bit grumpy, blah, blah. None of that.
No.
He completely ignored my argument and walked out. So I took my time. I did it on purpose. I took my time. My mum obviously was flapping like a mother
Panicking. Yeah.
hen, like, oh, we have to come. I'm like, no. And I said it very loudly. I said, I am not rushing. It's not like there's a time limit on when we can go and visit. At
Yeah.
7 o'clock in the evening, it's not a big deal. It's a 10-minute drive away. It's not the end of the world.
No.
And I took my time getting ready and I took my time getting my son ready. And we got in the car. On the way to our aunt's house, he was all lovey dovey with Jesse via the mirror,
Yeah.
as if that should make up for him being a dick. And then later, mum was like, "Oh well, he tried to make up for it by being nice to Jesse later." And I'm going, "That's not the point.
No.
You can't make up and be accountable by being nice to someone all of a sudden without the middle part of saying I
I am
was
sorry.
wrong.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
But Dad has a philosophy, and I remember him telling me this a long, long, long time ago. Something to do with him being bullied at school
Yeah,
and being seen as weak. And he stated it blatantly that he would never apologize to anybody because
yeah.
apology is a weakness.
Yeah, he said he would never
Apology,
admit that he was wrong. He said,
that's right.
I always swore that after that I would never admit that I was in the wrong. No one would ever make me feel that I was in the wrong again. I remember that. I remember that, him saying that. Yeah,
And you're sitting there going, actually, being able to apologize makes you a stronger person,
it does.
not a weaker
It does.
person. So, yeah, huge red flag if you're in a relationship with a narcissist who, one, can never apologize for their actions, or two, pins it back on you when they have done something to hurt you and they say, well, you made me say that, or you
Yeah,
made me act that way, or it's your fault I'm in this bad mood. It's not. That's
yeah.
that's absolute rubbish. And it's just lack of accountability because
Yeah.
they can't take accountability.
So then the next red flag is the frequent blaming of others or criticism. I mean, and this is more of a your experience than a my experience, but you had some friends round and they were all having a conversation and chatting away, and you were playing with our little dog on the floor, and
Well,
one
that
of
was
Dad's
one. There was only one person there. It was
oh,
Chris.
was one of Chris.
Yeah.
So he was talking to his friend, and you were playing with our little dog on the floor. Chris happened to think something that you did was funny, and Chris laughed as a grown adult. You know, he laughed at a child playing with a dog on the floor. And because it took the attention away from my dad, instead of, well, really, he shouldn't have instead of anything. Even if you could really, by the stretch of the imagination, say that Chris should have been listening to him, and so it was rude for him to kind of get distracted or whatever, but we all do. His beef should have been with Chris, shouldn't it? It should have been like, but what he did was have a go at and you, criticize the clothes that we wore. We had to, do you remember any time that we got new clothes, we would have to go down and check with him that they were okay, that the
I
clothes were
don't
okay,
no, I don't remember
that they were
that.
modest,
Oh,
and that they were
okay.
okay. And like, it's not like we were running around with short skirts on.
No.
Well, I don't think that's very good, but and he would, or just little criticisms that just ate away at your self-confidence if you got
You
something
don't
wrong.
need makeup on. You don't need
Yeah,
makeup
oh,
on.
that. But that's the other thing, even like with our niece now, who's quite close to my dad. She wanted to try straightening her hair because she's got beautiful hair, but it's very kind of wild, isn't it?
Yes.
Think Meredith from Brave, and that's
Yes.
our niece's hair, isn't it?
Yes.
And she wanted to straighten it, which is up to her. I mean, I don't think she felt bullied to straighten it. She just wanted to have a go at having it straight, which is
Yes.
the same for women who would like to make their hair curly or have a different style. And she was talking about getting straighteners, and my dad made such a, or why should you should leave it in its natural state? Why do you don't feel pressured into straightening your hair? And he does it in such a roundabout way, which is what narcissists do. Like you said
Hmm.
about it's like a backhanded compliment. Oh, you don't need makeup. You look beautiful like naturally. And you will find with narcissists as well, slowly but surely that will change over time. So it will
Yeah.
start off as that, and then the end result will be, well, who you putting that makeup on for?
Yes.
Who is it you're trying to impress? Who is it and then the blaming will come then. So
Yes.
it starts off as a compliment that you think, oh, he loves me the way I am, and he doesn't, and so you stop wearing makeup because, oh, well, he thinks I look lovely in this and that, and then that will develop over time too. Who are you putting that? Who are you trying to impress? Who you're going to see, and then the blaming of you trying to get another man's attention or things like
Yes.
that start to come.
Because he saw that as attention seeking, which
Mm,
is ironic, given that, like many of us, we can only see other people's, well, not all, we can't all only see, but we generally first off see other people's actions the way we would do those actions. Does that
yeah,
make sense? I'm not explaining that very well. So, dad's reasons for us not wanting attention is because he wants all of the attention. He
yeah,
was always the person who wanted all of the attention all of the time.
yeah,
Yet he criticized anybody else who might be seeking attention, or
yeah,
that's how he saw it.
yeah,
Oh, you're such an attention seeker. And look at her, she's such an attention seeker. Because I remember him saying that
yeah.
a lot. apart
Yeah.
from telling you how stupid you were and what an idiot you were, and what's the matter? Can you not think for yourself? I'm like, well, no, because I've never been given an opportunity to think for myself,
Yeah.
because I don't have an opinion and I
Yeah.
don't have a life and I don't have a brain, because every time I do something, you tell me I should be doing it differently.
Yeah.
So, I get so angry when I think about it. It just
It's
drives
angry make. It is angry making, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, I don't allow myself to get triggered in the sense of the word, that people really struggle with that trigger and it freezes them. But I do sometimes get angry when I think of the complete and utter, and this is a bad word, mind fuck that dad put us through,
Yeah.
because it was, you're not good enough, you're too stupid, what's the matter, can you not think for yourself, to, oh, well, you should be on stand on your own 2 feet, well, you should be independent, well, you should have a mind of your own. And it's like
Which is it? Yeah. Yeah.
that constant confusion. It's
Mm.
constant confusion. And again, we'll go with the blaming and criticism. It's constant criticism. It's like what you said earlier. You just could not do right for doing wrong.
Yeah.
If you had opinion of your own, you were wrong. If you don't have an opinion of your own, you're wrong.
Yeah.
If you needed to get instructions from him, you were wrong. If you did your own thing without getting instructions from him, you were wrong. It
Yeah.
didn't matter what you did, it
You were
was
in the
wrong.
wrong. Yeah. Yeah. You were always in the wrong, even down to like mood wise. And I think this is maybe another red flag in relationships. And I don't know if this comes under blaming or criticism. Find with a narcissist, whatever mood they are in, they want everyone else to be in that mood.
Yeah,
So if they are feeling low or quiet, whatever, they don't like it if other people are happy or positive. If they're happy and positive and you're having a low day, they're like, smile,
yeah,
come on,
yeah,
smile, what's wrong with you? Kind of thing.
yeah,
And there's no empathy or thoughtfulness or kindness towards or allowance for anyone else to have their own autonomy when it comes to what their emotions they're feeling, or,
yeah,
you had to, and Dad was very much like that. It was, you know, well, we've both said this. And I see it in the physical way that it is, because when I think about it, that is the physical way I see it. That we would come downstairs in the morning and we had a fire door at the bottom of our stairs, fire regulation, but fire door that went into the living room. So the stairs weren't just open into the living room. There was a door. And that door for me was always like the last bit of before they went through the door into the living room, because you never knew where Dad was going to be mood wise. So anytime that you went upstairs, whether it be first thing in the morning or if you come down ever out at any length of being upstairs for any reason, he could have changed his mood. He could be happy, or he could be silent treatment. We could be getting the silent treatment for something we didn't know we'd done wrong. And I always remember, and I didn't think about it at the time, but now when I look back, it was almost like I physically was bracing myself going through that door into the living room, because whatever mood he was in, you had to fall in with that, and you never knew. It was so fragile, you never knew
yeah,
what he was going to be like.
yeah,
And if he was like in good form, you could almost breathe a sigh of relief. But then you had to be in good form too. And it was in bad form, then it was just like, oh shit, when you got through the door. And you could just tell by the look on his face. And you
mhm,
and you didn't know anything what you'd done wrong, anything, but in his head, you had done something had happened, you were to blame. He wasn't going to tell you. He never told us. We just knew because he didn't speak to us for hours,
yeah,
or
yeah.
he would cold shoulder us or something like that.
Yeah. We
Um,
would walk through that fire door, and if he wanted to be in his peace and quiet, or like you say, given this silent treatment, you would walk through, because it was like, the fire door was here, walk
yeah,
through, and you'd have to go along that wall to get to the door that would lead you into the kitchen.
yeah,
And if you said good morning and he wasn't in the mood to speak, he'd just completely ignore you.
yeah,
But the next morning, if you walked downstairs and you walked through and you didn't say good morning because you knew that he wanted his peace and quiet, and you didn't say good morning, oh, you're not speaking this morning then? You were continuously on edge.
mm,
You were
mm,
continuously on edge.
yeah,
And, one of the reasons we suffered with hypervigilance for so many years afterwards. I used to think it was a talent that I could tell the mood of a room when I walked in it. I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was a trauma response. I didn't realize it was something that, wasn't a good thing. Some people can have a high energy. They're highly attuned to other people's energies. That's
Yeah.
not what hypervigilance is. It's being highly attuned to other people's moods and
Yeah.
emotions that is going on at that time. I can walk into a room and I know because you just sense that there's something in the air or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But that's because of years of training that we had trying to figure out what the hell was going on in masterminds' heads out there in the
Yeah.
corner. Yeah, I mean they're just a few of the red flags. I mean, we can't possibly cover them all, otherwise this podcast will be like 6 hours long. It would be remiss of us not to maybe throw in a few tools to help.
Yeah. I think, and this is hard because not everybody has this, but I think that having a support system.
Yes.
So I think when I'm just with my own thoughts, I can I can't clarify things always, and I'll justify someone else's behavior towards me. Wasn't that bad? Or it wasn't that bad. Or maybe I did do something wrong to encourage that. Or maybe, and having people that you have your best interests at heart, that love you and that you can trust. I have you, and I have another good friend, Lou, and another good friend, Chris, and Imogen, and I'll chat to them all, and I'll chat to you, and they will all help me to make sense of my thoughts. And I don't mean, because we can sometimes sit there with our friends and say, oh, no, 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 when actually we should be straight and honest with them. But they are straight and honest, and you are straight and honest with me. And just talking to somebody else helps you map those thoughts and feelings out. And you can say, do you think I was overreacting to that? And if you have a trusted, good someone who's got your best interests at heart, they'll tell you if you were. But they also can tell you if you went, and they can say, no. I had a discussion with Lou the other day about something, and I said, I really am worried that I'm overreacting. And she said, no, because did this happen, and did this happen, and did that happen? And she took it away from it being a personal thing that happened to me. And she just put them as separate things that happened. Did this happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? And I said, yes, yes, and yes. And she said, right. Do you think any of them are okay? And I was like, no. And then she, well, then you're not overreacting. So just having that support system to be able to talk to be able to get your thoughts in some kind of order, to have that feedback so you
Yeah.
don't feel like because, and I know this isn't everyone's experience, isn't growing up with a narcissist. Some people's experience being in a relationship as an adult, but that can still have a massive effect on you. And you get to the point where you don't trust your own thought process, and you don't trust your own instinct, and you don't trust your own feelings, and you do blame yourself all of the time. So having other people that you can talk things over with, and get their opinion and their point of view has really helped me. I'd say that was probably my biggest source of help, to be honest with you.
For me, I think journaling and therapy have
Hmm.
been the biggest helps for me. I mean, journaling for me, I mean, also I've gone down different avenues. I've gone down avenues of self-development, which have helped me understand who I actually am.
Yeah,
Because one of the big things that I took to therapy was I don't know who I am. I don't
yeah,
know what I like. I don't know. I had people pleased for so many years and jumped different, not personality so much. I've always been at the core the same person,
yeah,
but changed myself
yeah,
for so many people to appease so many people
yeah,
that I'd lost myself entirely. And I
yeah,
was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where to start. And there isn't a place to say, well, you start here. It's a progress. And it's a bit like going to the gym, I suppose. You start doing these exercises and then you start doing these exercises and you realize that those exercises might be better for you. And it's a case of on an individual basis.
yeah,
So what I did, therapy obviously for me was I needed therapy.
yeah,
I know there's a lot of people out there who say, oh, well, therapy isn't for me. And that's totally fine. You have got to do what works for you. And only you can know that. I would repeat what you said, I think, in last week's podcast, though, but to give it a go.
Yeah,
Because like anything new, convince ourselves we can't do it because it's scary. Opening a can of worms and having those that trauma fallout terrifies the bejesus out of most people. But again, going back to the gym, sometimes the biggest fear is walking into the gym in the first place.
yeah,
Sometimes the biggest fear is everyone here is going to think, I don't know what I'm doing, or I've never lifted a weight before in my life, or I'm too fat, or I'm too thin, or fill in the blank. And then there's the pain after the gym. You wake up the next morning and go, oh my God, because whatever muscle you have used is in pain. So
yeah,
I'm not sitting here and saying therapy is not hard. It is hard. It's
yeah,
I'm not gonna flower it. I'm really not. Therapy is hard work, but that's the thing that helped me. And I was fully invested in getting to know who I was and what I wanted out of my life and
yeah,
who I wanted to be. Journaling, I think, for me came after the therapy. I mean, I journaled whilst I was doing therapy, but not really understood that it was journaling. I was just writing notes of what had happened to my therapy and blah 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 blah. I found out later it was called journaling. I was like, oh, okay. Um, I still continue to do journaling even now. When things get too overwhelming for me, I need to get them out of my head. And I'm like, can't read what I've written afterwards because I've written that such emotion has come out, and it's like,
yeah,
what the bloody hell? It's like somebody else has written it. I look at it and
yeah.
go, okay, I was clearly possessed for half an hour because I don't can't read it. And again, like you, a support system. But unlike you, I am not a very social person. I
Yeah,
would count myself quite introverted. I'm great on one, but
yeah,
I'm not a great big group of people person. So I have very, very few friends and they're close friends, but they're good friends.
yeah.
Your amount of friends does not mean you have a great support system. You can have
No,
3,000 friends, but if 2,098 of them are crap, then the size doesn't matter.
no.
It's about, and again, you hit the nail on the head there when you said trust.
Yeah,
The people that you have in your life, for you to really get the benefit of that support system, you need to be able to trust them, to be honest with them, for them to be honest with you.
yeah,
Because if you can't be honest about what you're feeling, then you can't break out of the cycle. You're allowing that inner critic that you were talking about earlier
yeah,
to rule you,
yeah.
whereas you're trying to break out of that. So I definitely would say to start with one of those things that we have mentioned. I mean, obviously, as the podcast goes on, we will talk more in depth, but I'm grateful that people have listened. I trust that there are some gems in our conversation that people can pick out and
Yeah,
that will be helpful to them. I mean, this is the whole reason we're doing this,
yeah,
helping for us, but more helping for other people. So I suppose as a closing thing, I would encourage listeners to reflect either on their childhood or their current relationships and identify any patterns of manipulation. And if you're going to go for the journaling, here's a prompt for you. Think of a time when someone made you question your reality. How did it affect your emotions and behavior?
yeah.
Just one single thing. Write that prompt out at the top and spend some time and think about that. Recognizing these patterns can be painful. It's not an easy process. It's very much like therapy, but it is the first step towards your own freedom. And we want our listeners always to remember that they're not alone, and that you're also stronger than you realize.
Yeah,
Um, it may be that you feel that you're not at this moment in time, but trust yourself that you are.
yeah.
So we're going to say bye for now. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll join us in our next session. Like and subscribe to the video if you've enjoyed, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye.